Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm gonna talk about more about the agentic memory for LLM agents. So, before we start about like agentic memory for LLM agents and why we need all these things, right? The only way you excel in your job to use AI better. That's how it's gonna work it out. The reason is pretty simple here, because if you hear from the industry giants, you can hear what they talk.
Our repos today in some of our projects are probably all written by software. What about you guys? I actually don't have the number off the top of my head. That we are at a stage where deep applications can get built. Be done by AI as opposed to people, and then that will just kind of increase from there. So I was just curious if you were seeing something. Yeah, I hope it's been a good day. A lot of exciting stuff. Really.
So they talks about right how AI is gonna changing it from the moment you write a code. They're gonna be like next year the 80% or 50% of the code are going to build by AI agents. So we should understand like how this AI agent's gonna work, right? So what is agentic memory? The memory is designed to have a large language model to enable a dynamic a way of like interacting to the specific need of the queries based upon that. And for that we have to predefine the memory structure for a fixer operation. So it means like the LLM agents should have the long term and short term memory. That's gonna gives them an ability to interact in a better way of customer or a scenario based wise, because earlier those agents are talking to the LLM ones are more specific to the short term memory. For an example, you went to ChatGPT and type something, it's gonna give you the context duration for your chat itself. But when you come back and you already define who you are, what you are looking, what is your skill set, and the new chart, new window comes, it doesn't know what to do it, and you have to inform again or type again. But unlike into the agentic memory, those agentic agents knows, right, so how to communicate with a different agent with the shared memory or robotic way to find a path to go and fetch the information about that one. So there's going to be a short-term memory which calls as a hot memory, which refers as working memory, and we have the long-term memory as well. So working memory is more about like the immediate everyday tasks to it, and which doesn't require to know more about it. But the combination of the short term and long term memory is gonna be useful to build more personalized agents or assistants, maybe more contextual information which we can provide depending upon the person dislikes and likes. And in long-term memory we have a episodic memory, which is nothing but it stores your past experience actions. So for example, if you talks with your friend and how you share the personal information about your past experience, or might be some kind of like the way you are taking a reasoning out of your past experience. For an example, a worker who want to to react certain emails depending upon the priority during this experience, he might understand how to respond to the certain way, or write a code, right? So he already knows the problem of it, and he started building that into the prior to that. The second one is like semantic memory. It's nothing but it abstract the knowledge into the definition. And this agent, like this is more into the kind of like a domain expert wise. For example, it's if you think like you are in a specialized support engineer or a specialized developer or a specialized healthcare person, and you should have a certain domain knowledge within you. That's where the semantic memory is gonna comes up. It's a combination of long-term memory is a combination of like your past experience and your knowledge, which talks about your domain expert skill set defining as a worker. Then the third one is gonna come sit right how you can use your skills, right, depending upon the behavior, what kind of a guardrails you can place on top of it. It's called procedural memory, which is nothing but you have certain rules or to take certain actions. So the Asians thinks acts like a human. So we are trying to be near to the AGI, which is like artificial general intelligence, where we create these agentic frameworks and orchestration, those rules. If you go through my earlier videos, I've detailedly explained about those rules, how to define those rules. But when it comes to the more into the sensory memory, so agents memory is similar to the human memories here. So when human is going to react in certain situation, what kind of like taste he has, how he feels it in certain situation. So it has a factual and sensory memory. So all these memories of which we talks about is we call about long-term memory. But you can ask like, Bas, why we need this, right? So why we need this to do that? Because whenever you are interacting with the agents or robotics with the AGI capabilities, they know certain behavior as well. So that's where we can take a certain action much better than earlier one. So we have a two ways to the memory path. One is a hot and cold path. Hard path is the change, the decision which is going to take it, and cold path is background of memory management and the past your learning capabilities. Now, and most of the ways, like when I goes and talks about the most of the agentic frameworks, the enterprise organization always comes to me. They have the use cases, but they still not sure which framework they have to build it. They are uncertain, right? In what scenario, what use case, which framework is gonna be much effective, how those handshakes gonna happen, how we wanted to define those rules and guardrails. That's where I always works with the enterprise customers and educate them into which kind of a framework they have to use for which scenario based one. um, so let's think about here. We are trying to create a personalized email assistants with agentic memory. The moment when you talks about like the assistants as chatbots or assistant are a generic use case. So when you define a bucket of the AI capabilities, the first thing which we're gonna comes every organization need a personalized assistant. Even every person needs a personalized assistant. Either it's going to be a co-pilot for the developers, or code generation is going to happen, or your personalized secretary who write an email to you. So, but here, when it comes to you being an email assistant with agentic memory, the framework which we need to think about the land graph and a lang memo is good because it has a memory wrapper on top of it, and it's understand that behavior of the customer, and it's going to react one because it has a very semantic way, very in terms of like define a few shorts prompt which you can able to generate the long-term memory or going to be short-term memory. So episodic memory, which is talks about the long-term memory, it's a few short example. That's where land graphs is going to comes into defining those kind of like information with a few prompts into the ones. For example, you define urgent client request, meeting request from a VIP's failure example. The moment if you have given a few short example, it's understand because it has a episodic memory and it has range of router which knows to which agent it has to be sent it to you, like how the LLM is going to send to the agent, which use the multiple tools with the help of like MCP. And it has procedural memory, which has a system prompt, tells like the meeting duration, buffer time, and response pattern, and semantic memory, which is like the how the worker has to be respond with the past interaction. So whenever you're trying to build a personalized assistant, go with the um, LangGraph. And if you want to build an assistant which has to give the accurate answers with memory on top of it, go with React or Mem or framework, which is good for enterprise one, which I built it. I'm going to show that as well. So agentic architecture is having the components. The most important thing here, finding a path, right? So each time these agents are taking a multiple request, it should not be have too much of computational issues here. The challenge here with the agents is more about like how you're utilizing the computational one. That's where the shared memory is absolutely best, when they have that shared memory concept, like each agent is going to share what is a memory, current memory, and then it's understand like from where it has to be needs to be route the user query. Let's define like the users send a prompt, and depending upon the workflow of it, you have a trench router node. It's understand with the help of the dynamic route, and it's send those to the memory once, because we're already trying the dynamic rules with the help of the few shot example, and it's classify the emails, and then that agent has to be respond like, hey, I need to ignore or I need to notify it. So rather than sending directly each email to it, right, so I have to classify my email, ignore anything is spam, and then notify anything is urgent to me. And then it takes the LLM prompt and load the memory and try to write uh, the email, understanding your scheduling, your meeting time, your calendar, your availability, and how your past conversations. And it generate React agent on top of it, and it comes to back with the router with the conditional kind of a logic which you applied on top of the guardrails, and it's going to respond back to your urgent emails the way you are typing and behaving it. That's how it's gonna want. The main key takeaways which we talks about, like how dynamically you write those rules or define those rules, how good you make this multi-agentic interaction or prompt generation going to be more optimized way, because the more you optimize the conversations, the handshake, the security, and create those dashboards, like how my MCP tool is serving the request, how it's capturing it, how procedural memory is going to be stored automatically depending upon the rules which have been instructed. So that's going to help for us to do that. But memory agents are going to be a kind of like a query based strategically when you wanted to retrieve any kind of information from your long and short term, and on top of it you have to solve the complex assistant problem which you're going to do it. So let me run it. I try to create um, a similar semantic and episodic and procedural memory notebook. I'm going to share it, but however, I need to do certain kind of like the ones. For that, I'm going to try to show it in here. So let me show here uh, the lesson number 5. If you have taken this lesson, so before the notebook is loading, you have understand how we are going to using it, and but if you look at here, how you are classifying the incoming messages is more important, right? You have to say like just notify, respond, or ignore, right? Those rules you have to define it, and then use a human in a loop to help those classifying those emails or draft or response and meeting to the ones. So let me run this one. So I in this notebook, you can start downloading this notebook, and uh, and you start exploring it from your end, or you can start playing with it as well. So I run it, and then I've created a profile. Is like the name is John, right? And he's a senior software engineer with the $5 bus stream. Uh, when it comes to triage rules, marketing newsletter, spam, yeah, it's gonna be ignored. And the notify me whenever team member is out of sick, or build any system notification or project status. That might be a PR reviews, project ones, and send me direct messages to the team members or meeting risk requests and critical bug reports. So we have a rule which is defined pretty clear for us. And then when it comes to the email subject line, the quick question about API document, I was reviewing the API documentation, the new authentication service, right? So it is the one which is needs to be informed and needs to be, because if you look at the one, anything is direct question from the team members, it has to be respond one. Okay, this API might be changed one. So when it comes to triage system prompt, you have to give those system prompts into the way. So you have to inform like you are top-notch executive agent who cares about the name, and your background is like gets a lot of emails, and your job is to like respond, notified, and ignore. Write the rules on top of it, and you have the router with the baseline model, and whenever the request is gonna come set, you have to send that request to the OpenAI 4.0 mini. It has to forward to the LM, and the router has to analyze depending upon the email route with the content. So it has to be classified, ignore, response, or notified. So depending upon the classification, it has to comes to me. Then when it comes to me, it has to comes to me into structure output, and then it has to trigger that uh, a user prompt. On top of it has to be provide me the input and message details, and the router has to be, when it's informing me, it has to inform me who's the other, from where the email comes in, and what kind of assistance is required to me to do it, what is my role, and how I needs to be ignore, or might be respond to it. And then when I wanted to respond, it has to be write an email. And then when it's written the email, it has to be write a subject line to me. And by looking at while writing that, I have to look at my scheduled meeting, my calendar, my availability, and then it has to be accept those meeting invites. So it understand what is the duration of the time. And then it goes back my long-term memory and understand how has been responded to the particular email, what is my writing type, and how I've been responded with my previous conversations. And then it start responding with me with agentic memory use case. And then while you're writing that email, we have to define the agent, the instructions, right? How it has to be obey my rule and guardrails before it's responding to any of those emails. And then define an email agent, and which is going to check that my schedule availability by accessing different tools, and goes back as a React agent and get the summarize from the LLM of GPT-4, and then ask GPT to be very precise for that. And then it has to be add the node and respond agent. So it's a combination of the agents. So whenever you talks about agentic framework, there might be 10 to 15 agents, and each agent has a specific job, like how the worker is going to works it out. And then we have to validate each of the agent respond, how it's been responding, the way it is going to be, should be respond the way we are. And then it's going to be send an email with the urgent one. The service is down. So it has to be invoke me and drop a email and print that one, right? So I think like I got a message error, but it's gonna be have to rerun it, and it's missing that response, right? So it doesn't store any of those information yet. But let's rerun it this one more time. The reason it happened, sometimes whatever we run, it might not be executed the way it's supposed to, or I might miss any of the cell which is supposed to do that. I can run with one click with multiple cells as well, but I don't want it to do that. I wanted to see, right, if I miss any one of the um, um, cell which I missed while doing it. So let me see if you face the same issue again. And you can download this and you can start using it in your notebook as well. Or else, if you wanted to try it here, you can try and see it's how it's going to be responding it. So if you see it, like it's classified as a response, this email required response, and then it's right about the email. Um, that write an email, send to subject a quick question about the API document. I have responded with urgent services. This team is required, right? Use the tools with appropriate help that talks efficient. So direct request from the bugs and anything is gonna come say it, which gonna respond it. And now use updated instruction to the LLM, right? Always sign your emails with um, one. So whenever you're dropping the email, you have to do the signature one, which you can do it. And now I'm using multi prompt memory. So I'm using Anthropic plot, right? So and I'm trying to invoke it and see is like how it's gonna comes with me with ones. So it comes with a tool with the name, multi-agent, team member is out of sick. So it send me the all the response notification. So it comes with me agentic details. So we can use multiple LLMs here. So and orchestrate each LLM how it has to be respond to the certain queries and how it's gonna be replied to those emails. But the fundamental, the concept of like building agentic one, it's gonna be how you are going to be respond to this one. So it's gonna be ignored to the ones, and you can start doing that as well. And I hope you guys like this. If you like it, please try your ones and let me know if you guys wanted to hear something from me. Thank you so much for watching it. Please like and subscribe.